What's going on, everyone? Mr. Filmstock here with over 217,000 subs on YouTube, 24 million views on their number one video, and 36 million total video views. Please welcome founder, filmmaker, director, actor of Deformed Lunchbox, Pete Hatch. Everyone, give it up for Pete. Hey, Pete, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on your
Of
show.
course, of course. So, share the story behind the name Deformed Lunchbox. It's such a unique title, and where did you come up with it?
There's not really a great story. I was gonna call. I was a long time ago. I had all these short films, these horror films. I really like horror, and I was gonna make a website, and I was gonna call it "Don't Open the Box."
Okay.
And the idea was you'd go to this website, do not open the box.tv because .com was taken. I even bought the domain at the time, and you'd go to a website and there'd just be a box on like a black screen.
Oh, wow.
It would say something like "Do not open," and then if you click the box, a short film would just start, and then it would just like be random horror short films playing.
Wow. Okay.
But then I don't know. Over time I kind of worked with some people on it, and it turned into something where people wanted different buttons, and before you knew it, it turned into a full-fledged website.
Yeah.
And I just was like, I don't, this is too much. So I was like, let me just put these short films I have on YouTube. I want a place for my films. I want to make a few little short films, like the toothbrush one, the first film we uploaded. And we just, so "Do Not Open the Box" turned into like, what's the tweak on that to like, it kind of, the name kind of comes from "Do Not Open the Box." So it was like, box, maybe we call it lunchbox, and then we're like,
Okay.
what do we call it? Strange box. What do deformed lunchbox? It was like such a random name, and I'm glad that it stuck because we didn't put a ton of thought into it. So
Okay. That's so it comes from that iteration of that.
yeah, and I'll show you one thing. I've got this lunchbox here.
Love it.
I ordered this lunchbox on Amazon or something, eBay back in the day. It's like an old vintage lunchbox, and we call it the official mascot, Deformed Lunchbox, and it's hiding in just about every one of our films.
Is it? I
Yeah.
have noticed.
Oh, it's there. It's there. It's like sometimes it's in plain sight, sometimes it's extremely hard to see. But it's pretty much there in every single one that
So
we
those are
made.
little Easter eggs.
Yeah. Well,
So
it gotta be was fun. I don't know.
so what was the first horror film that made you think I want to create something like this for my channel?
Well, I had made 5 Minute Dating before I'd made a number of films before we even knew of a channel. So I made 5 Minute Dating, I made Hide and Seek, I made the one with a Satan popping out of my chest.
Right, right.
Um I made the Breakfast with the Mitchell family, one that's
Okay.
it's 18 plus, it's pretty violent.
Oh, wow.
So I made like maybe 5 or 6 films, but even before that, I'd made films since high school,
Okay.
and I think I just like to make films that kind of fuck with people,
Okay.
and make them kind of get a reaction or be like, "Wow, that's messed up." So I don't necessarily think it was just straight horror, but I think that approach aligns with horror a lot to make things that fuck with people. So. I had a great person tell me once, he goes, "You can't try to find your style." He goes, "Your style finds you." So make the movies you want to make, and over time, when you look back, you'll see what your style is, rather than look trying to figure out your style before you make the film.
Wow.
And I'm
That's
like,
a
"Oh,
pretty it stays with you, yeah.
I'll never forget it." It was like this Swedish camera operator, older fellow, and he just had all this wisdom that he imparted on me, and I was like, "Sweet."
That's awesome. So do you direct and write every single one of your short films?
No, like now we've opened the channel up for other people to submit to us.
Okay.
We didn't really like formally open it. People just kind of started sending them. And the first one we had was The Hand That Feeds You,
Okay.
by someone in the UK. So he sent me his film and we got in touch, and it gives kind of filmmakers a platform because there's so many horror short films out there. And if they just go on a YouTube channel or they just go on Vimeo or sit on a Google Drive account, they just like don't get a lot of love. And I think because we have an audience, it's like we can show our audience good short horror films that are out there. So I haven't, so no, I don't direct all of them, but I would say probably about 80% of them.
Okay.
I did.
And do you work with all the same people, like actor wise?
Actors, I like to work with the same actors again, as you can tell. Like I know you can
Mhm.
point out a few, Jess and Anne for Make Me a Sandwich, and
Right.
Julian, who's in Baleful. You're gonna see more faces in Baleful because
Okay.
Baleful, 7 parts, more people from Baleful you'll recognize,
All right.
including Jess is in it as well. I don't know. Actor wise, I like to work with the same people. Just because a good actor who's fun and cooperative and can be expressive, like they're hard to find.
Right.
Not to mention like people who show up on time and like are just into it and are ready to in our films like get bloody.
Right.
Some people don't want to do that. And I've had some films that I've worked with people and they weren't really that into it. And so I don't know, I like to stick with people that I know for actors. Crew, I like to work with different crew all the time.
Okay.
Just because there's so many talented cinematographers and makeup artists, and they're busy and sometimes they work on a few short films and they're like, okay, I don't want to work on any more short films right now. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'd say we work with very different crew all the time.
Okay. That's always good to keep it with people you know.
For sure. I mean, it usually is people I know. Luckily, I work in film here, so I know like most of my friends work in film. I have a friend who he wants to make a short film with me this year. So him and
Nice.
we already have a script. We're gonna make a short film this year. And he's like a good buddy of mine. I was at his wedding, so
Nice.
he's a Steadicam cinematographer. Like he shoots on Steadicam. He's a cinematographer. Wants to direct a bit. He's directed a few short films, and he actually directed a few short films. If he watches this, he sent them to me. He's like, "Can you put them on your channel?" But they weren't horror films. They were like it
Oh,
was like a mob film that I
oh, okay.
helped edit.
What is your curation process from idea, script to then screen? How long is the
For my
process for
own
you?
films, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know actually. I mean, I during COVID, I wrote a lot of short films, so I've got like way probably over 100 of these short films written.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, and a lot of times, we don't have a lot of budget for these films, so a lot of times it's either we'll pick one out like out of that collection, or we'll say, "Hey, we've got this great location," or I've got an actor who's like, "I really want to do something." Like I've got an actor right now, my girlfriend actually, she's a good actor, and she like wants to do something fun that's kind of animated, like Jim Carrey kind of character animation.
Nice.
So. I've written a few things and we're trying to like narrow it down into one idea that we can do with her. So it's usually that kind of motivation comes up or like for example the movie Find Me, one of our longer shorts. That was a friend of mine, a good friend of mine. He wanted to direct a film. He said, "Send me 10 scripts."
Oh, wow.
I sent him 10. He nerded on that one and then we took it and we like rewrote it and added to it. So it's always a different kind of process of I don't know. It's always different, I guess.
For Make Me a Sandwich, your big video on YouTube,
Yeah.
what was your first reaction when that started gaining traction?
I mean, it's still kind of crazy, right? Like, I thought it was crazy when it hit 1 million views. I thought it was crazy when it hit 100,000 views. When it hit 10 million, I was like, this is crazy. Now it's at like nearly 25 million.
Right,
So I don't know. I mean, it's almost now it's a little depressing because it's like, am I ever going to be able to make something that's as popular as this?
right. How long did that take to make that short film?
So we shot that in February 2019. And was it February 2019? Yes. And we shot over 3 days.
Okay,
The film probably could have been shot in one day, but we took our time. Like we wanted to have, it was the middle of winter and we wanted to have shoot days that were like 5, 6 hours,
okay.
not shoot days that were 13. And like so we shot over 3 days. And it wasn't super expensive or anything to make. It's a pretty basic idea. And I think the budget was around $4,000.
Wow, that's not bad.
It's not very much, and so about 1,000 of that was just for the skeleton and art and the production design.
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask how did that process go? Like, did you get someone
So
for the special effects or like?
I actually have a friend, her name's Haley, and she does production design. She's also an actor. Um, and she is wicked. And like I remember I met with her at a Starbucks and just talked to her, and I had the script, and I we just talked about how we're gonna do it, and she just went above and beyond, like researched what a how a body would decompose,
Wow.
and um I mean it was just that day where we filmed the spoiler, the reveal, the skeleton scene. Like we set that up for like 3 hours.
Wow.
So yeah, that was like we made sure that we shot that first. Like we wanted that to be perfect. So it was like that was a big setup, that scene.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, and then I do the post production because that's mostly what I do here. So I was editing color. I did the sound design, but I have a friend that helped mix it. Um, that was it, man. I didn't really expect it to be as popular as it is. It was just kind of like another film. Like we were just making these shorts, and I had this idea. I don't know, it popped in my head. I don't know where it came from, and it I was like, this is a cool idea. Like this is a good twist. And I showed it to my friend Scott, who directed Find Me. He goes, "This is great." He's like, "No, I don't have any notes, no changes. Like, you got to make this." Uh,
Nice.
and we were gonna make it a lot earlier. We're gonna make it actually in like 2017,
Oh, wow.
but and it was gonna be very different, like the same story, but with much younger actors.
Okay.
And there wasn't gonna be a skeleton. It was just gonna be like a guy with like purple makeup and stuff, like looking like a decomposed body. And there's a snowstorm, so the whole thing got canceled.
Oh,
And I'm like so happy it got canceled because then life happened, and
right.
I was thinking about it a lot. And I go, it really has to be elderly people. It has to then that ties into the dementia. So I'm lucky it got delayed.
Okay. Yeah. What
Uh,
is the so from 2017, so almost like 2 to 3 years it took to like figure everything out, and then you figured out like this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it. How did the
well,
casting process go?
it was more like we went on like a hiatus. Like there's a point on the channel where we had released a handful of films in like 2016 when we started. And then, or 2015, I can't remember. It was like we just uploaded a bunch and it just kind of like stopped for like 2 years. We just, there wasn't the momentum and we didn't really have a following. And then it was like years later, I was like, you know what? Like, let's make something again. Like, why not? I've got this channel. I like to make films. So we made that film Rachel's Eyes, where she scoops her eyes out as like a fun
Right.
project. And then after that, we made Make Me a Sandwich,
Wow.
which was already written. I'm like, oh man, I got this thing written. I really want to make it. So it wasn't like we spent 3 years working on it. It was like we wrote it, we were gonna shoot it kind of half-assed, got canceled, went to a hiatus. 2 years later, it was like, hey, let's do this project. And I'm like, hey, I want to do it right, a little bit bigger than I thought because I love this idea. And so the casting, I knew Peter Hudgens, who was the older fellow. He plays Johnson, or the screaming man.
Yeah.
I knew him actually from a music video that I edited. He was
Oh,
on
nice.
the video, and he was actually in another short of ours called "I Hate Halloween."
Okay.
So I liked he's got such a good expression. He's a great actor. Takes it very seriously. So he was great. And then Anne, I met through a casting website called Mandy.com.
Okay.
She just applied. She had a great look. We never did auditions. I just talked to her on the phone, and I'm like, okay, let's do this.
Nice. And now she's part of the Deformed Lunchbox alumni.
Totally, I know. And now she's in Baleful, and she said she gets recognized like at the grocery store for Make Me a Sandwich.
That's amazing.
Like people will recognize her, so that's cool, I think. Uh,
Now, of the short films you have done, which one were you surprised got so many views?
Make Me a Sandwich for sure.
Okay.
Um, yeah, that's probably the one I'm the most surprised about. I'm always surprised our short film, it's called Cookies.
Right.
I
Yeah.
didn't expect that to get over 100,000 and do as well as it has. I don't know why. I think it's just like a good creeper film, but that one I guess surprised me a little bit.
Now, the idea for your short horror films, does it come from any favorite horror films you have, or is it just something you've always like, you have this idea, I have to write it down?
It really depends. Like the we had a film I directed one film last year called Go Away Baby,
Yes,
and I just had a dream about it.
that
And
was a dream.
I woke up and it was so vivid, like the whole storyline of like guys haunted by a doll. He destroys the doll. Turns out the doll is not a doll. And
Yeah.
I started telling my friends the story, and they're like, "Whoa, that's messed up." And just me telling it, they're like, "You got to make that." So then it was like 2 months later, we made it. I was like, "This has to happen," and that's got over 100, almost 150,000 views now. Uh, there was a time where I wrote a lot of scripts. I had a friend I was kind of writing with, and he would give me like 5 words a day. Like he'd give me like banana, bicycle, like 5 different things, and then I would try to come up with ideas for those things that would like make him laugh or make him like be like, "Whoa!" Like a so that was the basis, and I'd write 5 sentences like for each thing, and then if I got a good reaction out of him, I would then write it into a script.
Okay.
I did that for like a whole year. Like I just every day he'd give me 5 things, and I give him 5 things. Sometimes he'd have a few ideas, and I would just write screenplays of everything. So I've got this huge list of screenplays. Some of them are dumb. Um, but I think sometimes if you have a really dumb idea and you like polish it up and like develop it, like Toast, for example, our film Toast,
Right.
it's a kind of a dumb idea, right? It's like I think my friend said, "Oh, what about making a film about a toaster?" And I'm like, okay, a guy puts his hand in the toaster, turns to toast, eats his hand, and it's like kind of stupid, but because we like developed it and thought about the character and thought about like the environment he lives in, and the actor brought this great performance. Now it's done really well, and it has over 500,000 views, and people kind of look at it like the theme about addiction.
Okay.
So now it's become much more. It's like sometimes a simple and stupid idea can be like developed into something richer. So
Right.
I think a lot of filmmakers, they just think they need this brilliant idea off the bat. Like, what's a genius idea? Like, I gotta find my Quentin Tarantino idea. It's like, no, you can just make a film about something really stupid, like somebody dropping a piece of cake on the floor and eating it off the floor. And if you shoot it right and you develop it right and you surround it with the right stuff, you can make an excellent film out of a very simple idea, especially a short film. That's my philosophy.
It's a good philosophy to have.
Yeah.
So what's the most ambitious short film you've done? Or like you're like, all right, I have to do this, but then at the end you were like, this is very difficult. I don't know if I can finish it.
Oh, I 5 minute dating for sure.
The makeup was really good. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
We had a wicked makeup artist, but it's just like the day was so haywire. Like we had this big location and we had kind of a budget, like a bigger budget on it. I raised money on like pre Kickstarter. We raised money on a website called fundable.com.
okay.
So we raised like about $7,000. Um, and yeah, it was just like the makeup took forever, and it wasn't necessarily comfortable makeup. And we were in this location for a long time. We had all these actors, and I'm much younger. Like this was like 2009, I think.
Wow, that far back.
A long time ago. I was like just out of film school, and I had this idea that we weren't sure what actor was going to do a good job. So we just had so many women come to be his dates. And so we kind of like filmed a lot of dates that aren't in the movie,
Oh wow.
which is not really maybe respectful to the actors, but whatever. I think they got paid. I can't remember if they got paid. I think they got paid like a little bit, but so it was just kind of like it was a little bit of that where it was very so many people, so hectic. We had some equipment go missing. We had one of our crew actually ended up stealing some equipment,
Oh my goodness.
very expensive equipment that we rented, and we were looking for it in the middle of the shoot, and I was crawling in the dumpster looking for it, and we we had to move on without it, and then we found it on the security camera. He got caught. I had to call him and whole thing.
Wow.
So it was
So
very stressful.
oh my goodness. And how long was that process from your idea to the
But
final product?
we filmed it in one day, surprisingly.
Oh, that wow, okay.
A hugely long day, 15 hours, whatever. But it was like a whole week leading up to it of prep. Like we built second set where he's in his home in like my garage, my family parents' garage
Oh,
with
wow.
like real flats, like real set walls.
Right.
Painted it, and then we melted wax all over the walls to make it look kind of gross. Um, and just like it was like a month of prep at least, casting and doing the molds for the makeup because you got to do a lot of prep for the make for the mold. Like
Right.
makeup's not just done on the day. That's like a full mask that's made to fit his face. So it's a net. He has to put his face in like a negative, and then they fill in the negative, and they can make it around his face. Like the actor had to go in a few times for it.
Wow.
So it was intense. I can't remember how long. I probably the script was written like 5 or 6 months before. But it was big. I'm glad I made it. But it was like back then, and I tell a lot of filmmakers this, young filmmakers this, like scope isn't everything.
Right.
A lot of filmmakers I meet with, they think scope is it, right? Like they make these big ideas, 30-minute short films, and it's like, well, that's not always it. That's don't bite off more than you can chew. And this film, the funny thing with 5 Minute Dating, originally it's like a 15-minute film.
Wow.
Yeah, and I cut it from 15 to like 7 minutes, and then 7 minute one was in festivals. It was in Fantastic Fest and a bunch of
Okay.
festivals. Then it went on Vimeo for a while and it got 10,000 views. And then it just like, not, that's it. And then years went by, like 5 years or so. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to put this on this YouTube channel. Why not? And I re-edited it again and I redid the color and I tweaked in the sound and the color and the edit again.
Wow.
And then now it's only 4 minutes. So I don't know. That's it. It's I want
Well,
to make a feature film version of it or like a series out of it. I think it's such a cool concept and character. I think it's cool.
that's what I was going to ask you next. Of your short films, which ones do you want to turn into a feature film?
Well, 5 Minute Dating probably, but for the most part, I don't like this idea that making a short film should be a trailer for a feature.
Okay.
Like I really believe short films are they exist as in themselves.
Okay.
Like, hey, what's your favorite song that you feel like should be a musical? It's like, well, no, I just like this song.
Right.
Good the way it is. Like, so I don't like that concept where like short films, we sell short films short. I guess pun unintended, but like where it's like, hey, it's a short film. It shouldn't really be a big deal. It's just a stepping stone for my career. It's just a proof of concept. It's just a teaser for a feature. Like, I don't think that's cool. I think we should appreciate short films and we should appreciate them as their own thing, and see the value in a short film. So I don't really make short films thinking, well, one day this could be a feature. And I've had people approach me about Make Me a Sandwich, about being in a, I had someone come to me to option a script for it, feature
Oh,
film.
wow.
And I'm like, it's just such a short film. Like there's no feature film version of this. There's no way to drag this out.
Wow.
The rhythmic thing, the film has a rhythm to it and it's ends and it's like I think it's perfect in the way it is. Like if you make it a feature, you're just gonna add a whole lot of backstory or you're gonna add a whole longer bit or you're just gonna drag out that rhythm. And so generally speaking, I don't think any of the films I have are features. But I would love to one make an anthology feature one day that has like a lot of shorts in one, like ABCs of Death for Deformed Lunchbox.
Right.
And I also I have a feature that I'm hoping to make this year, tentatively called Make Me Some Eggs, it's called.
Okay.
And it's a spiritual sequel to Make Me a Sandwich. So
Okay.
yeah,
So the concept of food seems to be a big topic in Deformed Lunchbox.
yeah.
Is there any like
Uh,
aspect of more so like would you do like a paranormal more deep with like ghosts or more demon stuff, or would it be like you just said, like I have an idea for a short film and that's what the short film's going to be?
well, I like demons. Demons are cool. I'm not really into ghosts, just because I don't believe in ghosts.
Okay.
I think that vampires and zombies and werewolves and mummies are not more kitsch, right?
Right.
Aliens, I don't really believe in aliens either or UFOs. But maybe one day. I really like psychological stuff. I like psychological horror a lot. And spooky stuff.
Right.
But it's also a matter of practicality, right? Like we don't have a lot of funding. And a lot of times people have to like do things to themselves. And as soon as you have someone attacking someone else, like chasing them and stabbing them,
Yeah,
well, now you're involving action. Now you're involving stunts, maybe. Now you're involving risk to the actors. Things are gonna maybe break. And it just becomes a more of a difficult thing. Like, where do you film a chase scene? And if you're gonna film like a murder chasing someone, how are you gonna make it stand out from all the other thousands of murderers chasing someone in movies? Like,
that's very true.
if you're not ready to break a window or throw across a table or stab and have blood gushing and keep going, like if you're not going to make it dynamic and interesting, and then that can like elevate your budget and make it this insane big thing. And to what end? To have a slasher?
Right.
So that's where I kind of gravitated towards more like psychological, weird, surrealism, and food. I think like food horror is like not really explored a lot. So again, it's not something I planned to do. It just kind of happened from lack of resources. And then as I look back, I'm like, oh, there's a style developing here. So Baleful, you'll notice there's lots of food in that movie.
Right, right. And how did the concept come up for Baleful? And did you decide to do that as like little bits of shorts like you're doing now?
Yeah. So Baleful was funny. Like we had no plan for it. I just my friend Julian and I, he co-produced the film. He's the lead actor. He's Eddie.
Right.
He and I were like, let's just shoot some stuff, man. I had this empty apartment because my ex-girlfriend had left and took in all the furniture.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I had, and also I had to move out because it was like a two-bedroom, whatever, whatever. I couldn't afford it myself. So I was like, hey, let's film in this place while it's empty and we can do whatever we want.
Nice.
So we filmed that opening scene where he's cut his throat with a saw.
Yeah.
And we were just like, let's just film this cool scene and like as a cool piece. So we just did some cool angles, we played with some lenses, and we're like, this is really cool. And we filmed a few versions of it actually. Like there's alternate versions of that. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, like versions that we had a version with like a floating camera, like a floating video camera, and it was like kind of spooky, but it was also kind of corny, right? It was like spooky or not knowing versus seeing an invisible floating camera. But like we had a floating camera version,
Wow.
and so we took that concept and then kind of like reverse engineered it. And the whole film's like reverse engineered. It's like, well, how did he get to this point where he cut his throat? And where did this camera come from? So it's like, okay, well, let's have him telling his issues to a therapist that led him here. And we also were very limited. Like we had almost no money. So it's like, well, how do we tell a story that doesn't have a lot of dialogue? Because the most expensive thing is dialogue, sound editing.
It's true. Yeah.
It just adds a lot of work and it adds a lot of complexity. And it's so we're like, how do we? So if we can do it over montage, like you've seen the first three parts of Baleful now, you'll notice like there's barely any dialogue.
Right.
Because the audio is expensive. Like hiring a professional audio recorder is expensive, and to polish that audio is really hard. So you'll notice like Eddie's thing is mostly over a montage. It's him talking to a therapist, so it's basically a monologue. And the Crystal's Missing one is kind of like voiceover, dream-like
Right. Yeah.
voiceover radio and phone calls. And then Martin doesn't talk in the third one. It's just his own voice when he reads his notepad.
And that's the thing I loved about it is that when you see the action happening, but you have the voiceover, you get a sense of like, oh, this is what's going on. This is what's happening. And it's like more so better because it's like if there's dialogue, it's like, okay, where is that going? But then when you have a voiceover, it works so well.
And also, to be frank, like actors, if the actor is not great, it's a lot more work on the actor, let's say, to like sell that scene and make that a believable scene. And not only but also the director, the actor, like there's so many areas where that can become cheap feeling. You know what I mean? Like you can have a short film. You've seen enough short films where all of a sudden there's two people talking in a room and you're
Right.
like, something about it instantly, you're like, this is cheap. I don't know if it's because these are 20-year-olds playing 40-year-olds, or it's that the audio's not quite good, or the lighting's really bad, or the framing's not there, or like there's so many things need to line up to make us really get into it. So it was almost like a way to get around that. So we almost challenged ourselves to like, how do we tell a film? How do we tell these stories, that these connecting stories in alternative ways? So Baleful is like a little bit of an experimental film. Like I know it's not a mainstream style film. It's very experimental. We kind of did it without thinking what's the audience gonna feel. Like we're like, let's just tell the film we want to tell. So it's some of that. I mean, there are chapters later that are more traditional where it's like there are people talking and there's dialogue and audio, but so I guess there was like a little bit of like Baleful was kind of like let's be experimental and let's like we kind of came up with it as we went. So we'd film out Eddie's story and I'd be editing as we were shooting, like not the same day, but like after we'd shoot a day or two, I would edit it all together and be like, okay, we're missing this piece. Let's go film this now. Let's add this. Let's reshoot this.
Oh, wow.
So we kind of pieced it all together. And I don't want to tell you too much more because there's a whole nother
Right, right, right.
the next I will tell you the next part coming next week is only like 3 minutes,
Oh, wow.
very short. But then the final three parts are a lot meatier.
Wow.
The best part's part six because
Where's-
it like kind of explains a lot of the stuff.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, like part six and seven, you'll be like, oh, it might. I'm hoping it'll recontextualize it and make people want to go back and watch them. And but we were it's very experimental. It was very much like we shot 41 days
Wow.
and we shot over 6 months, and it was almost like shooting. I want to say we felt like we were shooting like seven short films.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was there wasn't ever a script. There was only sometimes like for Martin's thing, there was no script. It was just a storyboard.
Okay.
And for other ones, the next one you'll see like there was no script, there was no storyboard. It was just I won't spoil it. Basically, we like record a podcast and then edit the podcast audio and do visuals over the podcast.
Ah,
So it's
all
all
that.
very weird stuff. It's very avant-garde, very niche, not mainstream, but yeah.
If it works, right? Just go ahead and do it, right?
I like it. I mean, I'll be honest, the most recent part, the Martins part is like getting really, really bad views.
It's gotta get going. That's what the thing. It's gotta people
It's
have to hear about it.
got the nudity. It's got the nudity and it's got the throat slashing. So
Oh,
it
right.
got age restricted, and it got ad restricted. And if it's age restricted, it can practically not be shared anywhere.
That's true.
You
That's
be
true.
18 plus logged in to watch it. You can't just turn it on TV and put it on for people. So it's like heavily, heavily restricted the views. But I don't care. It's kind of cool to be like
You do your
underground.
own thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
So from the aspect of Baleful, what other ideas do you have for this year? What is your big ambition for the year for films?
Well, I think the thing I learned with Baleful is that ultimately like you need if you want your movie to like I was hoping Baleful would have maybe gotten to that like avant-garde darling, kind of like what's that movie called? Skinamarink
Oh, yeah.
or Witch or something like a really low budget thing that kind of like catches the culture. And we just didn't really get a lot of buzz with festivals as a because it was a feature originally.
Okay.
We didn't get a lot of buzz with festivals. We didn't get a lot of buzz with distributors, and I just kind of got to a point. I'm like, this probably isn't it, and I should probably just release this and move on with my life and stop trying to like. I mean, I could have kept going. I could have paid for a sales agent, and we could have got it on Tubi and Apple TV and stuff. But to what end, right? To make
Right.
not like it'd make money.
Huh.
And I was just like, no, this probably works better as shorts. So I think I've now, if I'm going to make a feature, it's got to be more developed. Like we have to have a tight script. We've got to have a package. We've got to have a plan. It's got to be done more professionally. So that's my bigger goal is to like actually do that and use all the Deformed Lunchbox brand and the quality of work as like a proof of concept or a like a launch pad or like a place basically leverage that popularity and to like basically make this film and kind of coin it like from the makers of Make Me a Sandwich because that's our
Yeah, yeah. That would be a good idea.
yeah, that's why I want to call the film Make Me Some Eggs. But I'm developing with a friend. He doesn't know if that's the best title, but I think Make Me Some Eggs ties into Make Me a Sandwich. So we'll talk about that. But I've got a good script for it. I really like the script. I think you'll like it a lot too. It kind of ties into I don't want to give too much away, but it's basically about a guy who wants to have his YouTube or his online presence become he wants to become famous online through his cooking.
Okay.
And just like the ways he gets the route he takes to get there.
It's always the interesting part.
It's a horror film for sure, but it's got like zany. It's like a zany R style of horror, like psychological, messed up, but also probably people will laugh. Some people will laugh. So that's my big goal. I want to do that. We actually shot a film a week ago, just like a 1 2 minute film. That's like a silly one that's gonna come out in March when Baleful's done. I got some films that have been sent to me that we have planned. I want to make a film this year, like I said, with my partner, girlfriend, and my goal with that one is to make it really scary.
Okay.
But I want to make it scary, but I want to make it not gory. The thing is, if you go gory, it age restricts it online. And I think the real golden key of a great horror film is being scary, but being universal.
That's
Something
true.
that, something that an 8-year-old can watch and be scared of, but something that a 40-year-old can watch and get kind of a thematic resonance with. Like Make Me a Sandwich, like a little kids have seen Make Me a Sandwich, and they're just like, ooh, skeleton, and it works. But then you have adults watching it being like, wow, I can understand like the trauma and the dementia, and like I can relate to that with my grandparents. And so I think making something like dimensional like that is like a makes it a powerful horror film.
It's always the best way to go too. If you figure that out and then you can figure out what's going on in the end.
Totally. Like, and you gotta have a good kind of twist or something. So I've got a pretty good idea that I'm cooking that I think will be pretty creepy and scary that I
That's
want.
going to be fun to
Yeah.
check out.
I'm not sure if we're gonna film it and then like do festivals and stuff though. Maybe we might just do the whole festival thing.
So where do you see the channel going in the next few years?
I mean, kind of just the same thing, I think. I really like it being a platform for the horror, short horror mostly, digestible horror. I don't think we'll put features on there.
Mhm.
I would like to get into web series. So I might start looking at that as becoming if we can become official distribution platform in Canada, like recognized by these agencies, then we can host short horror web series, and then it maybe getting into that realm a bit where like we'd have like a 5 to 10 part series come out on the channel. That'd be cool. But for the most part, I love it being I always like the idea of it being like a little lunchbox that you go into and you just get like all these little treats, right?
Yeah, that's always a good thing because you never know what you're going to get when you open the lunchbox.
That's what I like about it, right? People don't know what's going to happen when they go to it. Anything could happen, right? So
Yeah. Do you have like a favorite horror movie that you love during Halloween that you watch every year?
I don't know if I have like a Halloween favorite, but I love the movie The Thing.
Okay.
That's like one of my favorite movies, full stop.
You
So
say like John Carpenter is your go-to horror director?
no, not really. I just really like The Thing. I like They Live a lot. I don't know if that's a horror film. But I'm not a big fan of Halloween, the original.
Okay.
And a lot of his movies aren't horror. Like Assault on Precinct 13 isn't really a horror film. I love that one.
Sure, yeah, yeah.
Um, what else has he done that's I guess The Fog.
A Fog, well, Big Trouble in Little China is not really.
Exactly. So I don't know if I consider John Carpenter like totally a horror director. Um, but no, I love The Thing. I think it's such an all-time classic. I mean, it's a remake, right? Like
Right. Yeah.
1950s film or something or 40s. And I just think it's a great film. I think it works on so many levels. It's so creepy. There's other horror movies I like. I really like The Exorcist. I really like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think they're like perfect movies and only work because of when they were made.
That's true.
But I also find them I find them hard to watch because they're so disturbing.
So, Pete, final question for you. What advice would you give aspiring filmmakers?
Hmm. You know what? I've come across this a lot recently because I have a lot of friends in film who want to make films, they want to do projects, and they just don't get around to it. And I think the best advice I can get, there's a lot of advice that you can get online or anywhere, but the best advice that I have is set the date. And I know so many people they do what I would call kicking the can. So they'll be like, I want to make a movie. I just gotta like get all my ducks aligned to do it. And they never get their ducks aligned. They always have an excuse not to. And really, you just got to set that date on your calendar. And if you set the date, it'll happen. We all have busy lives. We all work. We all have our maybe families and partners and chores and so I filmed this thing the other day on January 4th. And I'll tell you, by the time January 2nd rolled around, like I would never have done it if I hadn't have booked that day already.
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh, I don't really want to do this. Like, it's so much work. I got to make this huge mess. I got to get all this camera out. I got to pay everything, pay for people, all this stuff. So I was like, okay, I don't know if I would not have done it, but I was obliged. Like, I was locked in. And a month ago, I locked the date with the actors and I locked the date with my friends who were doing camera and I locked them in at a rate and I had the plan and so because I locked that date a month ago, uh, I knew I had this looming date. It's like when you have, it's like the procrastinator only gets something done because of the last second. So I knew because I had January 4th coming, like, well, I need to get my props ready. I need to get all my stuff ready. I need to have the wardrobe ready. I need to have a plan and a script, and I need to have my day off before where I prep everything. So because I had that day booked on the calendar, I it happened and we filmed it. And even when I was there, I'm like, oh, it's work, and I'd rather just chill with my girl today. And it's cold outside here, but we did it, and it felt like work. But now I've got this really fun, great memory in film that I'm like really excited to release, and like it's a cool thing, and it's gonna live forever. And
Nice.
like every film, we learn from it, and it's something that people can enjoy. So I have another friend. He's just been struggling to get something done. I go, dude, set a date. And he goes, okay, I'll get around to that. I'm like, no, no, get your calendar out right now. Let's set a day. This is a month ago. I looked at his calendar with him. I go, you're not doing anything on this weekend, January 18th and 19th. And so he goes, okay, like I said, what's stopping you? Book the days. He's like, well, I don't have a script. I said, you have a month. You can figure something out. You're gonna film it in your parents' house. You've got this. You'll figure something, and even if you figure something out and it's terrible, you're gonna learn from it. And if you do that enough times, eventually they're gonna get good. But the worst thing you do is nothing. So he's doing it. He's doing it on the 18th. He's filming something in his house, and he's rallying his people together. He's got a friend coming to shoot it, and once you become someone who sticks to your plan, it'll happen. It's just when if you're a flake, you don't belong in the film industry at all. So
Right.
if you tell the actors and you tell the crew and you do it all for that day and it doesn't happen on that day, just give up. You got to treat those days like concrete because that's how it works in film. If someone books you next week, I can't tell them next week the day before, oh, I have a tummy ache. Okay, well, you'll never work again
Right.
because we can't find someone to replace you the day before. It's not like a 9 to 5 job where you can have a tummy ache in the morning. I've seen people throw up on set because they're sick. Like you got to go. It's
Yeah.
so concrete. You can't be late. You got to be there. It's such a concrete mindset where I feel like we live in flake times, right? Where it's like everyone's flaking. Oh, you're gonna come over? Oh, text me before you leave so you can tell me you're gonna be late. Like that's the lot times of it, but that's just not how film works. So if you take pride in that and you set those days in your calendar and you say this is the day we're doing it, then that's it. And I do that for everything. Like I have dates on my calendar right now where I'm gonna just go and write scripts because I've been kicking the can down the road on writing scripts for 2 years here. So I'm like, no, I got it. January's my time. I set a whole week, and I'm like, this is the week I'm writing. I'm not gonna be editing. I'm not gonna go out and party and do anything. I'm just gonna like, this is my writing week. So it's really important to set those dates. Uh, that's my mantra for everybody. If you're trying to start a band, you're trying to be a musician, you're trying to be a
Get a
writer,
date.
doesn't matter what you're trying to do, set dates in your calendar for your own personal goals and treat them seriously because if you set a date in your calendar and you're like, that's the day I'm going to sit at my computer, I'm going to work on my goal plan or my breakdown of how I'm going to relaunch my music career. Don't think of it like, oh, I'll wait till 7 p.m. every night. Maybe I'll get around to it on my computer when I'm done work and I'm done this and I'm done that. I go to the gym and I just watch the hockey game, and before I know it, I'm done dick all. Set
That's
that day on
true.
your calendar.
That's true. That's the big thing. You gotta, yeah, that's a great way to put it.
That, that's my general advice. Yeah.
So all you aspiring filmmakers out there, listen to what Pete just said. Set that
Set
date.
the day.
Set that date.
Tell a friend and stick to it. Right?
Pete, thanks so much for this interview, for being
Yeah,
my first interview ever I've ever done.
you did great.
It comes full
You,
circle.
you should start doing these interviews. These are really fun.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, I have to reach out to a lot of people now, definitely.
I'm sure people would love to do it.
Yeah, I just have to come up with the questions and everything, but
You're a
it'll get
natural.
done.
You're a natural.
That's thank you, my friend. All right, everyone. That was Pete Hatch from Deformed Lunchbox. I'm Mr. Filmstock. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you all in the next interview video. And in the comment section, let me know who I should interview next. I'll see you all later. Bye.